either based on one set of characteristics or features, or based on another set of characteristics or features. Now the book gives just a really good example of a disjunctive concept. Let's say that you were taking someone to a baseball game and they wanted to know what a strike is. And you would say that a strike is when a batter swings and misses. And so they'd say, okay, I understand what a strike is. And so then what would happen is that the batter would come up and they would stand there and they would swing and hit the ball, but the ball would go back. And so the person would say, well, wait a minute, I thought you said that a strike was when the batter swung the bat and missed the ball, they hit the ball. And then you would say, well, a strike can either be when the batter swings and misses, or when the batter foul tips the ball. So it's an either or. And then the batter stands there again, doesn't move, and the ump goes strike three. And so you say, wait a minute, I thought a strike was, and you say, well, a strike can either be when a batter swings at the ball and misses, or when a batter foul tips the ball, or if it's a called strike. So a disjunctive concept is an either-or concept. It can either be defined by one set of features or another set of features. In the academic world, we refer to college professors as Dr. So-and-so. Sometimes that's a little confusing because you would say, okay, well, gee, Dr. So-and-so, can you treat my medical condition? No. A doctor can either be a medical doctor or someone who is a college professor. So it's an either-or concept, and sometimes that's a little bit confusing. And there are a lot of examples of disjunctive concepts. Okay, we said that we would, and also let me point out, and I forgot to say this in question number 2, but in both question number 2, which I think is going to be fairly simple in terms of mental images, but also in question number 3, don't forget the part of the question where I asked you to give a situation that illustrates in question number 3, illustrates the 3 different types of concepts: the conjunctive, the relational, and the disjunctive. Okay, we said that we would leave out number 4, and so let's move on to question number 5. And this has to do with how psychologists and also philosophers, if you take a philosophy course, you're going to hear a lot about inductive and deductive thought, especially if you take a logic course. What do we mean by inductive and deductive thought? By inductive thought, what we're referring to is when we have specific observations, and then based on those specific observations we come to a general conclusion. So inductive reasoning goes from specific observations, or sometimes it can go from specific information, which then allows us to form some general conclusions. Now, in your packet that I gave you on Thursday, and hopefully you still have your packet, but if you don't, I've put a link in Blackboard, the announcements, that you can get this. There's a little sheet that says inductive and deductive, and what it is it's some statements that you can classify either as inductive thought or deductive thought. And we're going to run through this in just a bit. And let me modify, if I put this question on the test, let me modify a little bit what's in the test pool. In the test pool, I said that I would ask you to develop a statement that would illustrate inductive and a statement that would illustrate deductive thought. What I'm going to do, if I put that one on the test, I'm actually going to give you, 2 statements. and ask you to classify them as inductive and deductive. Now, the first part, obviously, you would need to explain what we mean by inductive and deductive thought. And then the second part, I would ask you to classify these statements. So we're going to talk about deductive in just a bit. But remember, inductive thought is when we start with a specific observation or specific information and then come to a general conclusion. And we're going to go through a couple of these on your sheet to illustrate that. Deductive reasoning, on the other hand, is just the reverse. Deductive reasoning goes from something general to something more specific. And what usually happens there in deductive reasoning, we've already got some general knowledge, or we've been given some something that we sort of understand, some general understanding or knowledge. And then based on that general understanding or knowledge, then what we do is we come to a specific conclusion. So in inductive reasoning, we go from specific observations to a general conclusion. In deductive reasoning, we start out with some general information or some general understanding, and then based on that, it allows us to come to a specific conclusion. So it's just the reverse. Now let's take out your sheet and look at some of the examples here. And obviously we're going to do this as a group activity, and that's why it's set up this way. But we obviously can't do it as a group activity since you're not here. But let's look at the first one. If it is raining, then the ground is wet. It is raining, therefore the ground is wet. Now, which one do you think that is? Deductive or inductive? Now, this one would be deductive, because you can see here you're given some general information. You're given something that allows you to understand something. If it is raining, then the ground is wet. Then you make the observation, and then you come to a specific conclusion. So you're starting with some general information, or sort of a general understanding, and then coming to a specific conclusion. Let's look at number 2. John's wife observes lipstick on his collar. She concludes he must be cheating on her. Here, John's wife made a specific observation, and based on that specific observation, she came to a general conclusion. So I hope you're already thinking, this would be inductive reasoning, because John made a specific observation and then he came to a general conclusion. Let's look at the next one. It's snowing today. We probably will not have to go to school. A specific observation of it's snowing today, then the general conclusion, we probably will not have to go to school. So which one would this be? Obviously, once again, this one would be inductive, because it goes from a specific observation to a general conclusion. Let's look at number 4. All polar bears are white. The bear at the zoo is a polar bear. It must be white. So which one would this be? Now look, you are given some general information. All polar bears are white. And then you're told that the bear in the zoo is a polar bear, which allows you to come to a specific conclusion that this bear must be white. So here you have deductive reasoning. You're given something, some general information, which then allows you to come to a specific conclusion. Let's look at number 5. The dog growled. It may bite me. Hopefully, you're already thinking, inductive, because we have a specific observation. Specifically, we observe the dog growl, and then we're coming to a general conclusion that it may bite me. Let's look at number 6. In a democracy, people vote. I live in a democracy, so I can vote. Which one is this? You're given some information. In a democracy, people vote. Then you come to a specific conclusion that because I live in a democracy, I can vote. So obviously this one would be deductive. So again, sort of note that modification. Instead of asking you to come up with a statement that would illustrate inductive or deductive, after you describe inductive and deductive, then I would give you two statements and ask you to classify those statements as either being inductive or deductive. Now, just sort of a hint. Usually, because you've got to provide some general information in deductive reasoning, as you'll note here on the sheet, deductive statements are usually a little bit longer than inductive statements. So, that's just sort of a hint. It doesn't always happen that way, so be careful. But usually, because, as I said, with deductive, you got to provide some information, the statements end up being a bit longer. Okay, we said that we would leave out number 6. And so let's look at number 7. And let me find in the book the formula so you can take a look at the formula while we're talking about it. And where is the formula? Here it is. So here is the formula that traditionally has been used. Oops. I hope this is going to work. Here it is. Here's the formula that has traditionally been used to assess IQ. Now remember, on Thursday I indicated that, I have concerns, a lot of people have concerns, a lot of psychologists have concerns about how we calculate IQ, because we tend to think that we sort of come up with this formula of IQ, and this really tells us how intelligent a person is. There's some real concerns and some real questions about that. But for test purposes, I'd like for you to know the basic formula that has been used for many, many years to sort of determine what a person's IQ is. Now the formula's gotten a little bit more complex now that we have computers and we're able to develop large databases, and this is where a term that we left out on the vocabulary, but deviation IQ comes in. Now that sounds sort of like an awful thing, but that simply means how far a person's IQ score falls from the mean of other people who have taken the IQ test. But this formula still is at the basis that we're going to look at here. It's still at the basis of what we, how we calculate IQ. So let's take a look at it. As you can see, that it says MA divided by CA times 100 equals IQ. For test purposes, I'd like for you to let me know what this formula means. Now, the CA is very easy. The CA is chronological age. Chronological age, and obviously you can go to the book and see the explanation there. But it's chronological age, and I think that most of you, hopefully all of you, know what we mean by chronological age. It's how old we are in years. Whereas MA is mental age. Mental age. Now, how do we determine the mental age? For test purposes, I'd like for you to know that how we determine mental age